This is how it sounds. Turn this record over and learn why they saved yours.
Let me ask you, what really makes a good doctor? If you're not happy, how are you supposed to help your patients? Welcome to the Specialty Collective. On another episode, we're bringing in top specialists from all over the United States, the best people in their field. Today, we're talking about gastroenterology, and I am honored to have with me Dr. Johnny K, New York City, well, currently in LA, gastroenterology resident, ERCP fellow. We are super lucky to have him here. If you're interested in gastroenterology, you have to watch this video. It is one of the most sought after specialties. So today we're gonna talk about what it's really like. Johnny K, thank you for being here with me. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Originally from California, went to medical school, onto internal medicine residency 3 years, then 3 years of GI fellowship, and now on to my 7th year, advanced endoscopy fellowship, endoscopic ultrasound, ERCP, bariatric surgery. It's really been an amazing journey, and I'm really fortunate to be here, and I look forward to sharing with you guys.
If you guys don't know a lot of what he just said, this is super impressive. He's very far down along the line. Like I said, we're very lucky to have him, and we're gonna learn a lot about what he does today. So I'm gonna leave this first part open-ended. Johnny, tell us a little bit about your specialty. What is gastroenterology?
It's the science of the stomach and the gut. It's a very, very multidisciplinary specialty. It's what makes it really unique. You work with the surgeons, the pathologists. It's really a huge team effort, and it's not just the stomach and the intestine and the colon. It's the liver and the pancreas, the esophagus. It's really what makes it unique is it's a mouth to butt, mouth to anus specialty. So we take care of everything from head to toe.
Mouth to anus specialty. I love that.
It's true.
Alrighty, Dr. K. Is that Dr. K? Is that what you normally go by in the hospital?
Instagram is Johnny K. They usually call me Dr. Kung. Eventually ends up just being Kung.
Okay, Dr. Kung, and then just Kung. I like Kung better, actually. Tell me about gastroenterology in terms of the training that's required. How many years does it take to become a gastroenterologist?
After 4 years of medical school, if you're interested in gastroenterology, you go into 3 years of internal medicine. You need the basic sciences. Anything gastroenterology related, I feel, it still requires knowledge of all parts of medicine because it's all connected. Like I said, it's mouth to butt. You really need to know all the organ systems because everything's intimately connected. And then after 3 years of internal medicine residency, 3 years of gastroenterology fellowship, you touch on all aspects of gastroenterology, but if you do want to specialize, a lot of gastroenterologists after fellowship, they go into a 4th year. It can be anywhere from what I'm doing, which is considered an advanced endoscopy. You focus on ERCP, where we go into the liver and the pancreas. You focus on endoscopic ultrasound, which is a very non-invasive way of really getting a good view of all areas, especially in the liver and pancreas, which are harder areas to view, harder areas to reach. You can also do a year of inflammatory bowel disease. You can become an expert in that. A year of hepatology, a year of gut motility. It's not just 3 years of general gastroenterology. You can really go into many, many specialties within gastroenterology.
Yeah, I remember learning about gastroenterology in medical school. It was one of the bulkiest subject matters that there are. There's so many diseases, so many procedures, and just it's a hugely expanding field, especially with the new advances in the microbiome that they're finding out and the different treatments revolving around that, which we'll talk about later on in this video for sure. So you just talked a little bit about the subspecialties, which was my next question. Tell us a little about the subspecialty you're in. You're in an ERCP subspecialty. Super interesting.
It's really been awesome to be able to do it. ERCP is it's a specialized endoscope where the camera is not straight ahead like you would imagine wearing a headband with a light coming off the front of your head. The light and the camera is on the side of the camera of the scope, which allows us to go down to the second part of the small intestine. It's called the duodenum, and or the second part of the duodenum, and it allows us to look sideways at the papilla. The papilla is the opening to the ducts that go to the liver and the pancreas. The pancreatic duct and the liver, the main liver duct, they meet together at the papilla, which then empties into the small intestine. If you go at it with a a camera with a forward viewing scope like most gastroenterologists use, it's much harder to see sideways. So it allows us to get access to those organs a lot easier. In my opinion, you do need a fellowship to be able to really become really efficient and really proficient in using these scopes, because it's not the standard way of viewing. Along with ERCP, it's called EUS, endoscopic ultrasound, is one of the best ways to have a good view of the pancreas, the liver, all the ducts, anything in the esophagus or stomach. It allows us to either view and even get tissue a lot of times in the case of cancer, and it's a lot less invasive way of taking for example biopsies rather than maybe a surgical route.
Yeah, it's great. I saw you actually light up when you're talking about it. So
yeah,
you're really passionate about it.
It's a growing field. It's going to keep growing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're starting to get into bariatrics, endoscopic suturing. It's something that
So it's a promising field to go into,
Yeah.
looking toward the future. Definitely.
Definitely.
Awesome. Tell me what a typical day in the life is like. Maybe not for, we'll go into what your typical day is like, but for a normal gastroenterologist or gastroenterology resident. I know there's a common misconception that it's just colonoscopies all day.
So colonoscopies are really important. What makes gastroenterology also very special, it's partly why I chose it, is it's a great mixture of patient care, really intimate patient care. I still have to see patients in clinic every day. It's very important to see how they're feeling, to talk to them in person. And it's also a very procedural-based specialty. It is a procedural-based specialty, but if you're a medical student or a resident or even a pre-med looking for a great blend of patient care, patient-centered care with acute and chronic presentations, along with still getting that procedural part of being a physician, it's really a great field. Typical day for me, because like I said, it's procedural based and clinic based, it'll vary from hospital to hospital, but typical day for me is Monday is all day clinic. I get to see my patients, see how they're doing pre or post procedure. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is we got to do the colonoscopies and the ERCPs and the upper endoscopies at some point. So it's usually all day. Typically it's about 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. procedures. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it goes longer. And then Friday is often a blend of procedures that need to get done, sometimes on the inpatient side, in addition to more clinic. So it's a great balance between the two.
Very cool. That's awesome. So I know GI is one of the most competitive fields there are, because it's not super inaccessible, because a lot of people think that they can get an IM residency pretty easily, do fairly well during that time, and then match into a GI fellowship with the hope of a higher salary, really great lifestyle. So tell me, what are the kind of things people should be doing to match into a GI fellowship?
So the first thing is you have to have a strong internal medicine background. So I've seen people before me and after me, when they decide they want to go to gastroenterology, I think that's great. But so I've seen people focus completely on just gastroenterology, knowing the material for gastroenterology really well, whether it be for the rotation or clerkship. But I think it's still really important to make sure you're a strong internal medicine doctor. And I think it reflects ultimately on some of the step scores. It reflects ultimately on internal medicine board pass rate, which is still really important to pass if you're still going to gastroenterology fellowship. That would be my number one thing is yes, go full steam ahead to match to a gastroenterology fellowship, but never forget that you're still an internal medicine residency, and the most important thing is to become a great internal medicine doctor, because you're going to need it anyways. Another really important thing, if someone's considering going into gastroenterology, if you've decided early, I mean, in my opinion, the earlier you know, the better, but I still think it's important to try all specialties. Maybe you think you want to go into gastroenterology, but your heart might be with, no pun intended, cardiology. But I think if you know, it's important to get involved early in the hospital you're in. Seek out mentorship, seek out help. There's gastroenterologists in your hospital. I'm sure if you're at a teaching center, they're happy to guide you and get you involved. And I think it's really important to get involved, because maybe the more you get involved, maybe it's possibility that you realize maybe something else is for you. I think it's important, as much as I want everybody to go into gastroenterology because I love it, I think it's really important for for residents and med students to go in with eyes wide open, know all the specialties so you make a good decision. Get involved early if that's what you decide to do. Get involved with research. Gastroenterology is a growing field. So research is still one of the cornerstones of our specialty. Really connect with people. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to go to the gastroenterology attending or the fellow and say, hey, I'm interested in this. What can I do to be involved? What can I do to be involved in research and or any sort of conference? And just ask. Go straight up to them in endoscopy and ask. The worst response you're gonna get is no or no answer, but then you'll never know if you don't ask.
Yeah, I love it. What kind of board scores does it take? I guess you need to be in a competitive IM program in order to get a GI fellowship.
I think again, it goes back to having a strong medicine background. It's very important in GI because all the organs are connected. It is a very competitive specialty to get in, and from what I've seen, it's become even a little more difficult at this point. There's a lot of candidates for a relatively few amount of spots. The amount of GI fellowship spots hasn't really changed for many years. The amount of candidates and people applying has increased, so there is a lot of importance.
Do they look at your step 1 and step 2 scores when they're...
There's a lot of importance on that because it's a reflection on your medicine background. I would say at least a lot of places will use for screening initial GI fellowship applications is anywhere from 220 to 225.
Gotcha.
It's not the highest score, but it's still I think a very respectable score, and it's what some GI fellowships use to screen out the first round of applicants.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So another reason GI is so popular is because people think GI doctors have a great lifestyle. Talk to me a little bit about that. What are the hours like, and how much money does a typical GI doctor make?
The lifestyle, it varies from institution to institution. I think the general thought is gastroenterologists work from maybe 7 or 8 till 5. Again, patient care comes first. So my days sometimes are 8 to 5. Sometimes if there's a more complicated case or more patients to see with more complications, it might be a 7 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. day. I left last week a couple times around 9:30 to 10, and then one time I got out at 4:30. Made it to the gym, things like that.
9:30, 10 p.m. or a.m.?
10 p.m.
Ugh.
So overall, though, if you enjoy what you do and you choose the right specialty, you don't really pay attention to as much as when you're getting out.
Yeah.
To make a long story short, in general, you usually get around 5, but there'll be days where you get out a lot later. GI still takes care of acute emergencies, foreign body impactions, GI bleeds.
Those are fun.
And in my case, cholangitis. Cholangitis is when you have infection of the main liver duct because usually there's a gallstone stuck there. And like traffic on a freeway, everything gets backed up. It causes infection. The patient can be very sick. That's considered an emergency. That's the excitement of gastroenterology.
No, it is.
There's still acute emergencies. It can be stressful, but it's part of what makes gastroenterology special.
I know that you can go in and fix something. There's very few specialties where you can just go in, there's a thorn in your side, take out the thorn,
Absolutely.
And they get better. It's very fulfilling.
It's a very fulfilling, instant gratification, what have
Exactly.
you. I think a good comparison or a way to look at it is I considered emergency medicine as a medical student. And then I realized that I like emergency medicine because of the acuity of it, the emergencies. I like to work efficiently, fast paced. It's kind of my style. At the same time, I didn't want to lose the interaction with patients with chronic diseases that I can build a relationship with, and I didn't feel I would get that with emergency medicine. So then I looked and I saw, well, gastroenterology, there's acute emergencies too, and I also get to see patients with long-term diseases as well, so it was a good mixture.
I love it. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about the salary. I know it's a taboo subject for people to talk about, but people love to hear it.
It's okay. It varies. I would say on average it varies anywhere from $250,000 a year to, if you're very busy and depending on the area, it can be up to $950,000. It's those seem to be the statistics throughout the country. It varies though, again, from state to state, city to city.
So the Google machine, I know it's always very different in practice, what you hear about other people and your friends making versus what this says. And I think a lot of that has to do with, whether you're in a private practice job, whether you're in education. So this says that the average physician in America, the average gastroenterologist, ranges from 312,000 to 437,000, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with your location and what institution you're at. But that's pretty solid. Awesome. So if you're looking into gastroenterology, obviously that's one of the perks is you get, you know, pretty high average salary.
I think the salaries are. I mean, I think you'll do well. But I think the most important thing is to go into the specialty because you enjoy it, and to do it for the patients.
I preach that to death.
Yeah.
I would much rather make $100,000 a year
Absolutely.
in a specialty that I love than $500,000 a year hating what I do for work.
Absolutely.
And I would recommend that to every single person.
Yes.
Don't do it for the money.
That's extremely important. Because if you do what you love, I think naturally the patients get better care.
Absolutely. And you don't wake up miserable going to work every day. Like
That's true.
I love getting up. Like let's start this day. I'm ready to get to the hospital and do what I love.
Yeah.
Do gastroenterologists get sued often and for what?
It's not common. Definitely for ERCP, it's a little bit more difficult procedure with a little more complications, including perforation, pancreatitis, infection and bleeding. It's a little bit more risky procedure. I think there's probably more risk of litigation from an ERCP.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's like I always say, patient care comes first. It's important to discuss with the patients the indication for the procedure, why they may need it. Some of these patients come in very sick and they do need the procedure. In my opinion, a lot of it can be life-saving in a patient that has cholangitis. It's not something I think any gastroenterologist should be operating and worrying about. If you put the patient first and you do your due diligence, it's not something that should ever be in your mind.
If you're honest up front, and if anything does happen, you're honest with your patient, and
that's the most important thing. Complications, we're human beings. I think they can happen.
Yeah.
As long as you're honest and you doing the right procedure for the right reasons, I think that's not something we should actively think about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, some fun final questions.
Yeah.
The audience is going to love these. So if you were to go back to your third year of medical school, fourth year of medical school, and you're picking another specialty, can't pick GI, can't pick IM, what would it be?
Within internal medicine?
Nope.
Oh, I could pick anything. Ooh, that's a good one.
You could pick anything.
I know myself, what I like. I like the acuity of things. I may have chosen emergency medicine if I did it again. I like the instant gratification away, being able to be right at the front lines, sometimes life-saving. I appreciate that I get some of that as a gastroenterologist. I still go to the ED all the time when I'm on call, but I probably would have done emergency medicine.
Okay, great answer.
Yeah.
I love emergency medicine. That was my second choice as well. And the final and most fun question that I have, what is the stereotype of gastroenterologists, and do you think that it's true? And in the meantime, I'm going to pull up my favorite video that makes fun of gastroenterologists. They make fun of all the specialties, but I think it's so funny.
In some ways, maybe a stereotype, but the importance of colon cancer screening, it's incredibly important to be screened early if there's colon cancer in the family. It should happen earlier than 50, usually at age 40 or 10 years prior to when the affected family member was diagnosed with colon cancer. I think there needs to be better education out there for patients on the importance of screening. I would advocate for colon cancer awareness and screening. It's a growing problem in terms of cancer deaths in the United States and throughout the world, I'm sure. Specifically for the United States, it's one of the leading killers in terms of cancer.
I had a friend who passed away from colon cancer as well. It is rampant and people need to take their colonoscopies more seriously.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. What's the stereotype?
That's a good one.
We're going to watch this first. Will you decide?
Yeah.
There is so much money in the colon. You just go with a scope and you take it out.
Have you seen this?
You know what I'm driving? Look outside. Lexus.
That was great. But yeah, it was basically let's see if we can find another one here.
Every day in the doctor's lounge, they're like, what is smelling of poo? And I'm like, it is me.
So, you know that video, I'm glad you showed me that. Kind of jogged my memory on what is a stereotype. People think that as a gastroenterologist, you're dealing with poo all the time, and the smell is terrible. How do we deal with it? I hate to think that it's because I got used to it, because I don't think that's the case. It surprised me a lot when I became a gastroenterologist. is, especially doing colonoscopy. Yeah, there's poo there. It actually, it doesn't smell that bad, or it doesn't even smell really.
I've worked in a hospital and ICU long enough. Poo is the least of your worries sometimes. There's way worse things than human poop.
It really is. It's
unless they have C. diff. That's ratchet.
In general, poo doesn't, especially in the everyday procedures, it doesn't smell that bad. Contrary to what people would think. I didn't even know that prior to starting gastroenterology.
You know how you become used to certain smells? What do they call it? Sensitization. Mm-hmm. Maybe it does smell bad to the rest of the world. It could. Because you're a gastroenterologist, you just don't smell the poop anymore, which is, it happens. It's part of being human.
Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a major stereotype. I think we do what we do and we appreciate our patients. And I think maybe another one that I would say is gastroenterology is a very team-oriented specialty. You need help from your expert pathologists. You're very, very close with your surgeons. It's a big team effort, and your anesthesiologists especially. So especially this past year in advanced endoscopy, I've worked very closely every day with surgeons, anesthesiologists, pathologists, your interventional radiologists, and your radiologists. You need oftentimes a roadmap to see what you're getting into. And
if you want to see the stereotype for GI doctors, I'm gonna drop the link in the video. But yeah, I love it. It is team oriented. And you're preventative, you care about your patients. I love it.
Yeah, if you become a gastroenterologist, you're not going to be just by yourself. You're going to be working with so many other specialties, so many other doctors. And for me, it's been really gratifying. It's been an honor to work with everybody around me. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Johnny Kung. Where can they find you if they want to see?
Johnny_KKY on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, but check out my Instagram. I think you'll get a good glimpse into the life of a gastroenterologist.
It's also somewhat of a fashion icon. Highly suggest following this guy, Johnny_K. Thank you so much for being with us. If you like this video, please subscribe. Please watch all of the other Specialty Collective videos so that you can find out what specialty is right for you. And me and Johnny, right after this, we're going to be recording a super exciting video. I can't wait for this one on fecal transplants.
We
talked about these last night.
Works.
I'm like, we need a video on fecal transplants. Johnny, it was a blast.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Until next time.